The Brave Young Monkey. Long ago, in the forests near the great city of Benares, there lived an old monkey king. He ruled his troop not with kindness, but with fear. The old king was terrified that one day, a young monkey might grow strong enough to challenge him for the throne. So whenever a young male monkey showed any sign of courage or strength, the old king drove him away into the wilderness, never to return. Among the troop lived a gentle mother monkey who was expecting a baby. She knew that if her child was a boy, the cruel king would drive him away. So one moonlit night, she quietly slipped away from the troop and fled deep into the mountains, where she found a peaceful valley hidden among towering peaks. There, far from the old king's reach, she gave birth to a beautiful baby monkey with bright golden fur. Years passed, and the young monkey grew into a magnificent creature. He was strong as an elephant, swift as the wind, and wiser than any monkey his mother had ever known. His golden fur gleamed in the sunlight as he leaped fearlessly from tree to tree. One day, he asked his mother about his father. With a heavy heart, she told him everything about the cruel old king and why they had fled. Despite his mother's warnings, the brave young monkey decided to seek out his father. He traveled through dense forests and crossed swift rivers until he reached the old king's territory. When the old monkey king saw his son's magnificent golden fur and powerful build, fear gripped his heart. He pretended to welcome his son with open arms, but secretly tried to crush him in a powerful embrace. The young monkey, however, was far too strong and broke free easily. The old king realized he could not defeat his son by force. So he hatched a cunning plan. "My dear son," he said with a false smile, "I have been wrong. You are truly worthy to be king after me. But first, you must prove yourself. There is a magical lake nearby, filled with the most beautiful lotus flowers. Bring me those flowers, and the crown shall be yours." What the old king did not tell his son was that a terrible demon lived in that lake, devouring anyone who stepped into its waters. The young monkey journeyed to the lake. It was breathtakingly beautiful, with pink and white lotus flowers floating on waters that shimmered like jewels. But the clever young monkey noticed something strange. All around the shore, there were footprints leading into the water, but not a single footprint coming back out. Something deadly lurks in these waters, he thought. I must be very clever about this. With a tremendous leap, the young monkey sprang high into the air, soaring over the lake without ever touching the water. As he flew across, he reached down and plucked the most beautiful lotus flowers one by one. The demon below watched in astonishment, unable to believe that anyone could be so clever. Back and forth the young monkey leaped, gathering armfuls of perfect blooms, never once letting even a toe touch the deadly waters. The lake demon rose from the water, not to attack, but to marvel. "In all my years, no one has ever outsmarted me," he boomed. "You possess 3 great virtues, young one. Dexterity, the skill of your body. Valor, the courage of your heart. And wisdom, the sharpness of your mind. With these 3 gifts, you shall overcome any enemy." The impressed demon bowed low and offered to carry the flowers for the young monkey himself. The young monkey returned to his father's territory with the lotus flowers in his arms and the fearsome lake demon walking obediently behind him. When the old monkey king saw his son alive and well, with the terrible demon now serving him as a loyal companion, his heart shattered with shock and disbelief. The old king collapsed and breathed his last, undone by his own wickedness and envy. The monkey troop, freed from their old king's tyranny, joyfully crowned the brave young monkey as their new king. He ruled with kindness, wisdom, and courage, never driving away any member of the troop. Under his gentle leadership, the monkeys lived in peace and plenty. And from that day on, everyone remembered the 3 great virtues that had saved the young monkey: the dexterity of the body, the valor of the heart, and the wisdom of the mind. Moral, skill, courage, and wisdom together can overcome any obstacle. The Jackal Who Tried to Roar. In the golden grasslands of ancient India, there lived a magnificent lion king named Sinha. He ruled over a proud pride of lions who spent their days hunting, playing, and basking in the warm sunshine. Sinha had a young cub named Simba who was learning to become a great lion. The pride's favorite time was evening, when they would gather on a great rocky hill and roar together, their voices thundering across the plains. Not far from the lion's hill lived a scrawny jackal named Howler. He was a small, thin creature with patchy fur, but he had very big dreams. Every evening, Howler would hide in the tall grass and watch the lions roar. "Oh, how I wish I could roar like that," he sighed. "If only I could join them, everyone would respect me too." One evening, Howler could not contain himself any longer. As the lions gathered on their hill and began their mighty chorus of roars, Howler crept closer and closer. His heart pounded with excitement. "Tonight is the night," he told himself. "I will roar with the lions, and they will see that I am just as powerful as they are." The lions' roars echoed like thunder across the land. The earth seemed to tremble. And then, right in the middle of their glorious chorus, Howler threw back his head and let out his very best howl. Yow-wow! But instead of a mighty roar, out came a thin, squeaky, screeching howl that sounded like a rusty gate swinging in the wind. Every lion froze. The magnificent roaring stopped instantly. The lions looked at each other in horror and disgust. "What was that dreadful noise?" growled one lioness. "It is a jackal," snarled another, spotting Howler among them. One by one, the proud lions turned away from the hilltop, too embarrassed to continue roaring. The beautiful evening chorus was ruined. Little Simba tugged at his father's manner and asked, "Father, why did everyone stop? What happened?" Sinner looked down at his son with gentle wisdom. "My child, that noise you heard was a jackal trying to roar like a lion. But a jackal can never be a lion, no matter how loudly he howls. His thin voice only spoiled our beautiful song." Simba thought about this and asked, "But father, why did he try?" Sinner replied softly, "Because he did not understand that every creature has its own special voice. There is no shame in being a jackal, but there is great foolishness in pretending to be something you are not." Meanwhile, poor Howler slunk away from the hilltop, his tail between his legs and his ears flat against his head. The lion's disgusted looks burned in his memory. He had wanted so badly to be like them, but all he had done was embarrass himself and ruin their evening. He crawled into his burrow feeling smaller than ever before. But as the days passed, something changed in Howler. He stopped watching the lions and started listening to himself. He discovered that his own howl, though not a roar, was beautiful in its own way. It carried across the moonlit plains like a silver melody. The other jackals loved it. And Howler finally understood what the great Lion King already knew, that every creature shines brightest when it is truly itself, not when it pretends to be something it is not. Moral: be proud of who you are. Pretending to be someone else only brings embarrassment, but being your true self brings real respect. The Quarrel of the Quails. Long ago, in a great forest near the ancient city of Benares, there lived a flock of thousands of quails. They were led by a wise and caring quail king, who always watched over his flock like a father watches over his children. The little birds lived happily together, pecking at seeds in the tall grass and singing their cheerful songs. But danger lurked nearby. A clever fowler made his living catching quails in this very forest. He could perfectly imitate the call of a quail, and when the birds gathered together, he would throw his great net over them. Day after day, the fowler caught more and more quails, stuffing them into his basket to sell at the market. The flock grew smaller and smaller. The wise quail king knew he had to act quickly. He gathered all the quails together and said, "I have a plan to save us. The next time the fowler throws his net, every one of you must push your head through a hole in the net. Then, all together, fly up into the sky at the same time, carry the net to a thorn bush and drop it there. Then you can escape from underneath." The next day, the fowler came as usual and imitated the quail call. The birds gathered, and he threw his net over them. But this time, following their king's plan, every quail pushed its head through a hole in the net. Then, with a great whoosh, they all flew up together. Hundreds of tiny wings beat as one, lifting the heavy net into the sky. They carried it to a thorn bush and dropped it on the sharp thorns, then simply walked away free. Day after day, the quails repeated this trick. Every time the fowler threw his net, they flew up together and dropped it on the thorns. The poor fowler spent hours picking his tangled net free from the prickly bush. He trudged home empty-handed every evening, and his wife grew more and more angry. "Where are the birds?" she scolded. How will we eat? The fowler smiled slyly at his wife. Don't worry, he said. Those quails are working together now, but it cannot last forever. They are only birds, sooner or later, they will quarrel. And when they do, they will fall right into my hands. He spoke a verse that would prove terribly true. Joyously the birds fly away, carrying the net together. But when they quarrel, they shall come into my power. And sure enough, one day it happened. As the quails were landing at their feeding ground, one quail accidentally stepped on another's head. Who stepped on my head? The offended quail shouted angrily. I'm sorry, it was an accident, said the other quail gently. But the angry quail refused to forgive. You think you're so important. I bet you think you lift the net all by yourself. The argument grew louder, and soon the whole flock split into two quarreling groups. The wise quail king heard the quarreling and rushed to warn them. Stop fighting, he cried. Don't you see? This is exactly what the fowler is waiting for. If we stop working together, we are all doomed. But the quarreling quails would not listen. With a heavy heart, the quail king gathered his loyal followers and led them away to safety in another part of the forest. The very next day, the fowler returned. He threw his net over the quarreling quails as before. But this time, instead of working together, one group shouted, You lift the net. It's your turn. The other group shouted back, No, you lift it. While they argued and blamed each other, the fowler calmly walked over, gathered his net with all the trapped quails inside, and went home smiling. And the wise quail king, watching from far away, shed a tear, knowing that their quarrel had been their downfall. Moral: unity is strength. When we quarrel, we become easy prey for our enemies.